Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife, Lili, born in Colorado. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I think it's fair to say that one issue that raises many questions and remains a burning issue for many observers and commentators relates to the births of Archie and Lili. So many questions remain, and it's clear that many people want to know the truth of that because there are so many strange things that have occurred in relation to the pregnancies and births of both of the children. There are many videos and comments arising with regard to the unusual circumstances. You've seen, for instance, evidence that's been presented to suggest that this one's wife was not actually pregnant and was using a moon bump. There has been evidence presented by people to suggest the use of dolls rather than actual children. There's the confusion about the birth announcements. There is the fact that Harry referenced a lot of change in 2 weeks when he meant to say 2 days. There's the fact that the children have never actually been seen recently in footage created by an independent third party. Instead, the only images that are provided are ones which are controlled by this one's wife, and invariably mean showing a foot or a hand or the back of the heads of the children. There have been people commenting about the fact that the hair colour of the children alters regularly. Their height appears to alter. There appears to be doctoring of photographs, and so much more that has caused many people to either doubt the existence of the children at all, or suggest that there has been some kind of chicanery involved, whereby surrogates have been used, but it has been covered up. You will have your own theory about it, and recently in a poll, I asked people what their view was in respect of the children, and most people believed that surrogacy was involved, and then that the children don't exist. There were only a few that voted to suggest that this one's wife has given birth to both of the children. This continuing fascination with are the children real, and if they are, did this one's wife give birth to them, means that it remains a live issue. And a particular facet of this has reappeared in relation to the birth certificate for Lilibet. And I mentioned this because, as ever, it's important to have accurate information. There are certain commentators and creators that undertake considerable investigative work, utilizing credible sources for the purposes of explaining various things about this one's wife and Harry. As you know, I approach it with regard to explaining why she behaves as she does through the prism of her narcissism, as I was the first to point out that she was a narcissist. There are others that just enjoy the speculation, and fair enough. If you simply say, my site is there just to speculate on these things, we like having a good chin wag, weighing up the options, that's fair enough. They're not holding out their views as fact, they're simply stating it's speculation and opinion. And unfortunately, in other instances, we have certain content creators that portray certain things as fact when they're actually not. Either clickbait sites that just generate errant nonsense, or individuals that claim certain things have happened, and it's quite clearly the case that they have not. And there are certain individuals that have started to gain a reputation for telling porky pies in that respect. The issue surrounding the birth certificate of Lilibet is an important one. And as you can see on the screen, there is a copy of what is purported to be Lilibet's birth certificate. And in the top left-hand corner, there is a serial number. And it begins with the digits 105. As you are aware, it's always been stated that Lilibet was born in Santa Barbara in California. And it has been pointed out by a content creator that the code 105 appertains to Colorado. And therefore, many people have taken this to be evidence of chicanery, that in actual fact that Lili wasn't born at the cottage hospital in Santa Barbara, as has been fed to the media, but rather that she was born in Colorado because of this 105. Furthermore, this has led to people thinking may it be the case, therefore, that she was born to a surrogate who was based in Colorado, that the birth took place in Colorado, and Lilibet was brought then back to California. Certainly, you could understand people forming a view in that regard. You could understand that people would think, hang on, if the birth certificate has 105 on it and it'd say, and that's the code for Colorado, something's amiss here. How come she's born in Colorado when they said that she was born in California? It's not the case, surely, that this one's wife gave birth in Colorado. Could it be, therefore, that it was a surrogate? One can understand why people's minds have gone that way. However, it's important to fact-check these matters and to ensure that the actual information is properly presented. This very issue about the Colorado code appeared in a thread on the subreddit Saint This One's Wife. You know, they use a full name and I do not. And the import of this information is of sufficient weight that I thought it was appropriate to ensure that their work was brought to as wide an audience as possible, because it was clear that even in the thread about the issue of this code, that people felt that it demonstrated that something was off, when in actual fact, one poster cleared it up very quickly. One of the posters, who goes by the name Deceptive Duo, contacted the California Department of Health, and there it was confirmed that the birth area code for California is indeed 105. Colorado is 106. And the codes had changed back in 1996. Accordingly, it used to be the case that Colorado was 105 prior to 1996. But nearly 30 years ago, it changed. So Colorado moved from 105 to 106, and California adopted 105. So with the copy that you see that starts with 105, it is actually from California. And I thought it was only appropriate that the detective work of Deceptive Duo was brought to a wider audience to ensure that this mistake or misinformation, depending on your view, is cleared up. Whilst there's much about the Sussexes which is questionable, it doesn't help for inaccurate information to be pumped out about them. It doesn't help because it plays into their hands, as I've explained before. It confuses people, and what tends to happen is that a piece of misinformation is put out there, and it's repeated so much by so many people across so many different channels, on YouTube, across different platforms, it then gets a life of its own and is taken to be actual fact, when actually it wasn't. It just gains that reputation as a consequence of repetition. So it's important that when it's being discussed about there being some questionable code, it's actually an error whereby The code had changed back in 1996. The code for Colorado is now 106. The code for California is now 105. I'll let you make your own minds up about whether this is an honest mistake or whether it's been purposeful misinformation. That's for you to make a determination. But what's important is to demonstrate that Lilibet wasn't born in Colorado. She did appear in Santa Barbara, California. Of course, there are still plenty of questions to be asked about the provenance of that birth, but the birth certificate code has turned out, in effect, to be a red herring. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.